Hello. I have needed to do a gay white country boy ramble. I don't know where I'm going to go with this. I don't know how long I'll take. But I'm sorry, lighting sucks. I don't really have lighting that works well for this. Um, I can try to put this lamp on. But from what I remember, uh, yeah, that lamp makes everything really yellow. I tried to have the most neutral light on. Um, anyway, uh, the main theme that I want to talk about today is how I've been feeling as a millennial, white, lineage poor male lately in society. Um, excuse me. The weather's at that time. Oh, the quality of the picture cleared up a little bit. That's good. Um, uh, it's at that seasonal shift. We're starting to get cold nights. My 4-year anniversary is this month. I say that in order to make what I'm about to say more appropriate. I keep seeing myself lately and thinking both, oh, that's what I look like, and two, damn, I'm handsome. Anyway, um, I'm at a weird place right now. Uh, I've been doing so much paradigm shifting in myself lately, and so much good thinking and learning. Um, I've been meeting the demands of my life pretty smoothly, um, and it's been a lot lately. Um, just a bunch of extra shit going on. That's that I can't do much about other than move through as gracefully as I can. Shit at work, shit at home with construction in my building, and also I'll be moving to another apartment in the same complex, um, probably in the next month. Um, uh, I'm dealing with a lot of medical shit. Uh, but what I wanted to focus about, what I wanted to talk about, what I wanted to get off my mind, um, and also I kind of want to apologize because I'm starting to feel apologetic that I do videos like this, and a lot of people edit. A lot of people write their shit before they do a video, and the thing is, I know I'm kind of trash as far as just speaking my thoughts, cuz it's difficult for me. Um like unless it's just like the right time and place about the right thing, I'm not good at it. Um, I'm excellent at writing, texting. I'm great at putting my thoughts. I learned most of my social habits in chat rooms at the turn of the century. That's me. That's who I am. That's what I'm good at. Um, I'm good at typing that shit out. So like that's definitely a part of why I choose to do this and to upload it. I'm not promoting this, you know. It's interesting to me. Like lately, more people have been watching my stuff for whatever reason. But certainly don't make it consumer friendly. Um. Anyway, so today I'll just tell you about my day. I was off work. Uh, the only thing on my schedule was to go over to a different tap room in a different part of town that is owned by the same company that I bartend at a different location, different neighborhood. Um, that sister location had a like a like an art fair today, and so like they had like booths and tables set up and everything. And one of my coworkers who I've known most of this year, um, had a booth for her art. And this is the same person, excuse me, um, this is the same person who spent the entire day with me when I had a booth at the Pride Festival this summer with my art. And she spent the whole goddamn day with me. She was my ride. She helped me load up shit into her car. She helped me set up the entire fucking thing. She spent the whole day with me. We broke down the tent together. Like everything. Like I've felt like, I need to do something that shows up for her. Because I feel like I asked a lot in that. Um, Also, she's probably going to be the person who gives me a ride home from the surgery that I need to have later this week. Not looking forward to that. Um, uh, I've been thinking so much lately. I'm having a hard time deciding what I want to say. Um, but it's so I'm for sure going to have a small surgery later this week. It is both a surgery to remove affected tissue and to also biopsy that tissue to see how advanced things are, and determine whether I will need another much more intense surgery. Also, that I don't get cancer. Um, and man, like that's the fucking C word with poor people, especially. It means something different. Yeah, I think it strikes fear in everybody's hearts in this country, because our healthcare has always been shit. But when it can mean bankruptcy and homelessness so fucking easily when you're poor in this country, uh, it's just a lot. It's a lot to be staring down the barrel of. It's very much a staring down the barrel of something. Anyway, um, it is very likely that I will be told that I should have the more intense surgery, um, 6 weeks after the surgery I'm about to have. Uh, and man, can I just say that just the testing and the biopsies before any of the surgeries apparently cost $10,000, and my insurance covered most of that. And then I was still charged out of pocket 570 for testing and biopsy, and I have insurance, and that's what I owe. So I'm gonna fill out a form that they sent me for financial assistance because apparently they do some like sliding scale stuff. So that's cool. I'm trying to get better about asking for assistance when it's offered, at the very least. Um, but I hate it that I'm running into things where it's really obvious that I don't have a support system, and as comfortable as I may have become living within that in a lot of different ways, it's still challenging when you hit something unavoidable. And so the fact that I have to like ask coworkers that I've only known for a few months at my current job to like take me home from the hospital while I'm fucked up from anesthetic. It sucks. Um, and I don't think I've said this in any videos lately because I haven't done any videos lately, but it's something that I realized um, within the last few weeks. Because like I realized that I passed the point of like the loneliness or the solitude or like healing from a bunch of shit while like very solitary in my path, or dealing with a bunch of new stressors while very solitary on my path, um, understanding my intergenerational inheritance and my family trauma on my own without anyone to bounce that off of or be known with. Something that hit me the last few weeks was just like a very clear sense of it's been a long time since I felt known. It's been more than 2 years at the very least since I knew anybody or just like even had the sensation and the awareness that somebody somebody anywhere um knows who I am and knows how I am, knows my backstory and where I come from, knows how I tend to respond to things, knows how I'm likely to respond to a given thing. Um, Something that little things that I really liked from a long close friendship that I had um, previously was just the fact that like I could look at them and ask them, "Have I seen that movie?" Like I loved that closeness. I loved that we have lived life together so closely and so in communication and with so much sharing for such an amount of time that I can ask you something about me. I adore that. I'm so glad that I've had that before. Um, and I realize that that's a special thing. Um, but man, it was a new sensation to realize that I had not felt like anybody knows me. Like everybody that I know currently, that I'm in contact with currently, or that I've been in contact with at any point this year, I have some understanding of where they're coming from and what their perspective is going to be like, and in some way, kind of have a sense of how they view me, and how they view our connection. And none of it is like really knowing me or me really feeling heard or understood. It's very much new sets of situations where I have to figure out how to make a bridge. That's hitting me as very ironic because it's the first time that I've used that analogy in my own thinking, and I'm someone who's for a long time the only way that I knew how to leave was to burn bridges, and I'm extraordinarily good at burning bridges. Um, so it's interesting that I keep being met with situations where I have to actively construct a bridge in the moment, socially. But it's also, I think the result of like the situations that I've experienced that are leading me to feel unknown and just like perceived through a lens that I don't feel sees me clearly, and me not feeling understood. Um, that's not that's not just anybody's inability to build a bridge. It's how I understand my experience is that other people um, are in a different kind of mindset, and they can only view other people as these character types that fit within the narrative that they have been given and that they have accepted as their real life, and through which they view everyone else that they come in contact with. No, I worded that really well, actually. Um, but I mean, that still leaves me in kind of a helpless to affect um, the results of the situation kind of place, you know? Um, it's exhausting because I'm someone who has written off being performative, and I'll meet people that I work with or whatever who they've adopted performative as a personality. And I am just so not with that. And in a lot of ways, I've been that. But because of that, I'm aware of like these people, some people have just like these fleeting moments and fleeting glimpsing blows with like direct interaction with reality. And then they go back into their narrative and they just exist in their narrative. And I'm becoming a person who exists outside of that and is grounded in to what I can best determine is reality. And I have found other voices who talk about reality the same way that I experience it. And I love those voices. And I seek out those voices. And I seek out other people who perceive things in a similar way or with a similar process as I do, right? Um, I had some difficult growing pains, maybe during the last 2, 3 months, where I realized that I was stepping into a part of my experience where I was changing, and not necessarily, well, somewhat. It's complicated. Not in a if I take this step, there's no going back kind of way, but a sense of I'm going to solidify my growth. And when I do that, I am going to be different. And that part of me will be different. And moving onward, I will be different. And in a way that is just a fact of time, a fact of growth, a fact of getting older. I don't know how to better explain it right now. But I definitely had the succinct experience of I am changing. And I think what bothered me is like there were elements to that where I knew that I was going to be changing a certain way and solidifying in a certain way um, because of like it was going to be influenced by the fact that like I don't have anybody close to me and I haven't for a few years, you know? Um, that sense of aloneness and that sense of out of touchness and that sense of social stunting and social death that I continue to live through. Um, the thought process is that it has forced me to unravel and, you know, the gratefulness that I've had the time with myself that wasn't distracted by easy social interactions. The fact that I am no longer enamored by any lure of social interactions being something that feeds me in a, addictive way. I'm only interested in nourishment, and nourishment takes planning and forethought and effort and intention and time and maintenance and a continuing to foster. And all right, so I wanted to talk about my day because I think telling you about my day will put into perspective just a fucking line it all up for me thing about where I've been working with and experiencing um, myself as a white marginalized person in the US. Um, I took the bus to go to the place where my coworkers' art booth was going to be. Um, familiar bus route. Um, familiar neighborhood. Uh, our bus. But like today, I kind of just planned on I need to show up for her because it's a good thing for me to do. And I want to hang out and I want to be available if she needs any help, breaking stuff down at the end of it, which I did stay and help and do that. Got on the bus. I was dressed in more going out clothes today, and I don't think I've had occasion to do that on the bus in the last few months. Um, well, maybe once, but usually uh, I'm wearing I'm leaving the house clothes, and I pick good outfits, and I like my stuff, a couple of the uh, gentlemen who work back a house at work complimented me because they've seen me walk in from the bus and I changed into my work clothes. There might be another one. Maybe not. Mm. Because there's going out of the house clothes and there's going out somewhere for an event and I want to be seen in a different kind of way, like for the event. There's that. There's clothes I wear in the house. And then there's my work clothes. And my work clothes stay separate from everything else, and I keep them fucking pristine. And because I refuse to need to buy anything from the company at which I work in order to do my job, like something that is mandatory that I have, but that I have to buy from them, I despise that. So I was given two work shirts 8 months, nine, around 9 months ago, and I work full time. And I just recently got a couple pinholes on those two T-shirts because I keep my shit pristine. Anyway, so I'm thinking about like how I'm showing up as I was on the bus. I know I was showing up fucking fly. Like I was actually really fucking happy with my outfit today, and I was happy to have an opportunity, and I didn't enjoy it the way that I used to. Like when I was more ego based and cared more about like, and I'm this, and you'll see it, and like, cause I live my daily life as I'm this, and you might see it. You know, and like that's where I live, and but I'm starting to take into account uh, being a little bit more present, being a little bit more. I don't know. I don't know. I had these vintage ass fucking bell bottom seafoam green corduroy pants that I've had for over 20 years. That I had two different uh, denim blue jean color pockets sewn on to the front and the back. And I was wearing that. I was wearing this shirt and uh, and then like a tactical, like a soft green, excuse me, tactical vest with a hood that I sewed on. Black boots, black Timberlands. I look fucking fly. Um, and I had a keffiyeh with the Palestinian flag colors, uh, graded like over the handkerchief in a handkerchief size. And I like wrapping that around my wrists and tying it and wearing that sometimes. Um, so I got on the bus, and I think it was yesterday and today was the first time that the person driving the bus, the people driving the bus, um, said hello to me first. Because, I don't know, the bus kind of feels like library space. And I say that as a person who loves libraries and like loved libraries as a kid and loved libraries as an adult and there's a special kind of like sacred quiet that exists in libraries. And and I love riding the bus because like 90% of the time, 95% of the time, like it's just fucking quiet because people are usually riding by themselves, um, or if they're riding with somebody, then like they're talking quietly for the most part, and you're not supposed to like play anything, any like music on your phone or games, that are loud, and like like no speakerphone for calls. You're not supposed to do that on the bus. And so the result is that it's kind of just a library on wheels. Everyone's just kind of sitting quietly. Different people are doing different things. Some people have headphones in. Some people are looking at their phone. I'm reading a book. Um, But that being said, like, it's also just kind of that, not unfriendly, but not necessarily warm environment, and it feels very safe and very relaxed for me. Um, I always say hello to the person driving the bus, like, as soon as I step on. Um, uh, there's like, I hate it that I keep thinking he must be new because I'm so sure that he's just gonna get, tired of it and not be like that. But really cheerful dude driving the bus yesterday. Really cheerful. It was fucking great. Today I stepped on the bus and it was a middle-aged black woman, and she said hello first, and I haven't had that happen before. I was also holding a bush, holding a book titled "White Trash" and had my Palestinian flag keffiyeh and a Black Lives Matter, and and honestly, a style of clothing that I did a couple of years ago. I did the work on it, but it's more common with like Black culture fashion right now. I'm seeing it. I'm seeing shit similar to what I do show up in that realm of fashion lately, like urban um, Black fashion. Um, like that kind of like resurgent style of like punk, basically, um, in a more polished manner, which is exactly what I do. So she said hi, and I was reading my book, but it was mostly middle-aged black women on the bus, and this was like Sunday at noon. Um, but they were all talking. And then we were at one bus stop for a very long time. I still don't fully understand the situation, but a black male teenager was apparently confused about like which bus he was supposed to take, where he was supposed to wait for it, shit like that. And so he was talking to like this bus driver, and then the bus that pulled up across the street, and but like all of them went into auntie mode. And I was glad to see it. I was glad to be there on it. I was glad that they got to do that with a white dude just chilling in the corner reading. It felt so healthy. And I was also thinking like there are so many demographics that would never welcome seeing a child getting guidance from a stranger. And in fact, they're like those same demographics tend to be so guarded against anything, anyone from outside of what's known to you speaking to you and trying to give you anything or tell you or instruct you with anything. Like, that's so deeply a distrusted thing. But then it's much more makes sense, like common sense kind of shit for me and where I'm coming from and who I am. um that yeah, you see someone who maybe needs a little bit of guidance, maybe you give a little bit of guidance and then you go on your way. And that's what I saw these women do. And I realized, like, depending on who was on the bus, like, people could be acting really fucking impatient about that. Like, why are we taking so much time and stalling at this stop for this kid, like. And But instead, I saw all these, these strangers, all these like middle-aged black women just being, just naturally, just in this moment, we're family, and I'm gonna instruct you for your own good to keep yourself safe and so that you know what to do. And you're on your own now, but I've told you what to do. And like, and that shit I understand, you know? Um, God, I am so happy. I hope that the main fucking bridge that I'm able to knit together in my fucking lifetime in some meaningful fucking way outside of my own experiences is just the actuality and like the actualizing of the experience that I've had my entire fucking life, that I have always felt more comfortable around people of color. And it's shit like that. Because the more that I understand white culture, the more I understand, like, this is the shit that I was shying away from, and that I saw that it was a false narrative that everyone was just subscribing to and treating it like it was reality. And it always felt more like calming and centered and grounded and kind and nurturing and tender to be around literally anyone of color compared to that. I'm a kid from the country where, where I grew up, where I had my early childhood, um queer people, neurodivergents, and people of color did not exist. People of religions other than Christianity did not exist. We knew that they did exist out there somewhere, but they'd have nothing to do with us. What a strange life that I'm living. I'm glad I signed up for it. Also, I will say something that happens on the bus and bus etiquette, the courtesy on the bus. Um, you don't sit next to a stranger on the two-seater main seats. You don't really sit directly next to anybody, uh, unless you have to, um, due to constraints on space. And people will stand before they start sitting next to people. And I'm part of that. I understand. Um, but today, on part of my bus ride, um, there's this. There was at least one two-seater in the front of the bus on the lower level that was completely open, and then there was at least one or two-seaters in the back half of the bus where I was, plus at least two of like the three-seat bench areas in the back, that were completely open. And this like tiny older black dude, like my size, maybe a little bit smaller, um, got on, and I think I've seen him on the bus before. He probably just like lives on similar routes. Um, the only other white person on the bus at the time was like maybe like early 50s white dude. Um, kind of, he looked kind of chill. He wasn't white. He wasn't like, aggressive white trash or anything. Um, he looked more like the scared white, middle aged. Um, probably chill. Um, tiny little bite sat next to him. And I saw that, and I did the double take, and I took account of like all this. There was also like 3 seats in front. That was a choice. Y'all didn't seem to know each other the entire time. I was watching y'all sit next to each other. Y'all didn't know each other. Y'all didn't talk the entire time. Like, why was that his decision? He's like, I'm gonna do this. Uh, it just made me so happy. Um, like, what's he living through with this encounter? What's the white dude living through with his encounter? Like, they didn't say a goddamn thing. You're just gonna sit next to me on this half-empty bus. Ugh. But then I got to the place where the market was, and man, I circled through the entirety of the marketplace with all the booths set up and everything. I circled through an entire 3 times, and I did not see my friend anywhere. And I texted her, and I waited, and I circled through another time, and um, I finally just started deducing, like, okay, because she has this kind of stuff, she's probably in this kind of area, so I'm gonna go back to this area, and I'm gonna just see if I see her, see if I overlooked. I did finally find her. Um, but I just had a weird experience with, I met her, like, bestie. And, like, this is the friend that I have seen her speak about with so much just adoration. Um, I'm okay. So I'm realizing that because I've started realizing this recently that like I have a really hard time keeping anyone close to me if in any way I don't respect them. And I just heard myself say that out loud, and I realized that sounded really legitimate. But I definitely think a lot of people's relationships are based on, are you willing to hold me up? And in return, I'll hold you up. And I just find that so fucking empty. And I've been in those relationships. I've sought out those relationships. I have no interest anymore being performative or like I only fucking care about, I don't know, like this is where I've been living. I've been like figuring out my edges as far as like it's really I cannot tell myself lies or tell myself stories about someone's behavior if, for example, if some of their behavior is not in line with what they say their ideals are, right? um Something that's just kind of incompatible in their own behavior. Uh, I am wrestling with keeping some level of that in my life, and wrestling with whether like there's some degree of that is kind of normal and just humans being dumb and not fully self-aware and not aware of themselves as an actor making actions within a context. um because people tend to just like adopt their narrative about what they're doing and what their lives about, and that's the only fucking thing that exists, and they're not aware that they're showing up to an environment and they are playing a role within that environment that shapes their interactions with other people and with the situation within that environment. That's what reality is. um So what was kind of challenging for me was uh I finally met the beloved best friend of my coworkers. Um and like it was pleasant, but it was strained pleasant the entire fucking time. And I was very aware that I was being viewed as an other, and I didn't know what all it entailed, but I also was aware that I was kind of showing up as a full force, I am an eccentric person, which is something that I have given thought to during the last year and realized like I need to just lean in and get comfortable doing that. Because that's something that I've always had a lot of respect for. And I think that's where I can show up the most, is if I just get comfortable with being the eccentric. But that also involves getting confusing reception from other people and not being sure how to take it because you're not sure what that reception was about. You know, like if it's a perfectly normal situation, but you think that they might have known that you're trans and they treat you weird because of that, or if you are too country and they're treating you like you're dumb and less than, then there's that. Uh, Lots of different things with that. Uh, but her friend, we had a long talk, and it was very strained, and which sucks because it's mostly about gardening. Um, but she was trying to hit me with all this like blitz on language and jargon, and but she also just like did not have her priorities right. So she was caring about shit that I don't care about, and she was like, like having all this like fancy language for shit that I have no respect for. So it's like, and she was like trying to ask if I was into permaculture, and what I wish I had said was like, no, permaculture is the blackface of gardening, because I didn't think about that. I didn't think of that statement until a few hours later, and I'm gonna use it again. I will never apologize for that statement. Permaculture is the blackface of gardening. And I will not apologize, but I will happily discuss. Um, They stole so much from like indigenous practices and like acted like it was new exciting information in fucking gardening that was like taking a step away from like the green revolution that like caused a lot of pollution and like, you know, all of the fucking European based glamour gardens and all that shit. Anyway, we're done talking about that right now. Anyone who's into permaculture needs to um, gain the beginning understanding of what decolonizing is, and then we can talk about gardening. Anyway, but it was so awkward, and she was very much. I was also coming in a really like finally starting to see space being granted to my ancestors in the first chapter of the book that I'm reading. This is not the first time that I've had that. The first time that I was given that was actually by a black reverend. I don't remember his name right now. I'll go grab the book in a second and tell you. The first time that I was allowed to care about my intergenerational trauma and what my identity is and what my heritage is, I felt like I was given permission um, because I heard a black man care about it. And a black man wrote a whole fucking book about it. And that's one of only two books that I've finished front to back, start to finish, on the bus. I tend to like need breaks from books and get out of that mood for a while and do something else. And it takes me a while to finish books, even if I'm reading regularly. And I'm so stoked that I've been able to read regularly while taking the bus. Let me go grab the book so I can tell you the author real quick. The book is White Poverty by Reverend Dr. William J. Barber II. So yeah, Reverend Dr. Barber. Um, excellent, excellent writing, excellent piece of work. It's mostly documenting the work that he's like actually done on the ground, going places, talking to people, giving talks. Mm. Um, but he recognized that he recognized class as existing outside of the intersect, and like that's the intersect of race. And that's exactly what I've told everyone that's asked or that I've shown. I'm reading White Trash right now. Um, and like that's what I tell people. It's about um, class history over time in this country separate from its intersect with race. And he was able to see that, and he was able to understand that because of everything that's happening within that, there's all this connection that's been actively prevented between us and other marginalized people in this country because we've been fed different narratives, um, and been given different instructions for how to behave and who to socialize with, and he understood that. And he knew that it was best for everyone, and he knew that it was the right thing to do to care about your most marginalized, your most impoverished, and to understand that like being kept from being able to assure yourself a safe future, just being in basic accommodations, like there's so much challenge for anyone who is in poverty, who was born in poverty, you know, like. So that's where my headspace has been, is kind of learning um, more about me through that, through some sort of history of me being provided in a couple books that I can read. Um, Books that acknowledge that we don't have any history of our own. Um, the New World was sold as a vacant lot, and people, probably including my ancestors, were sold as the manure, as the human expenditures, sometimes enslaved and sometimes indentured, or sometimes just, you know, sometimes rounded up on the street and sold. Um, prisons being siphoned off to go on a ship and show up here in this country. And I know in my bones and in my blood that I come from that. So it was hard because I was having this conversation with someone who clearly doesn't understand poverty. And what was kind of condescending was she was asking, I mean, she did it gracefully, um, but she was asking questions about the farm, um, that made me think that she thought that I didn't know what basic shit was. And and I kind of like, the only answer that I have for that is to explain to you how poverty works. And this is what I have been able to do and why. Full stop. There's nothing outside of that. That's just it. And it's uncomfortable. It's an uncomfortable conversation. And everything that she said told me that she was so fucking, like, enamored and like wanted to like identify with like gardening and nature and plants and shit like that. But like she also is so fucking removed from just coexisting with it and being alive and then being aware of something else that's alive. And I don't know. But no, I'm definitely at a different level where I think because I had to get away from so much of my judgment and so much of my like self-talk about how other people think, like other people around me, like in my social sphere or whatever. um I had to let go of a lot of letting it affect me. But now that I'm there, it's kind of hard because I'm in a place of being able to see things really fucking clearly, in a more patient and in a more, I don't have snap responses that are pre-programmed out of anxiety and out of codependency and out of systemic programming to just respond in a placating way. If someone like does this kind of cue for that response, I don't do that anymore. And um, it's been hard to find the vibes, because I'm starting to really comfortably exist on the margins. And I think people notice that I'm comfortable and on the margins. I'm not hiding that. I'm not trying to fit in. I'm not trying to be liked. not trying to be acceptable, you know? Starting to give credence to me taking up the space that I take up, and that flavoring the environment however it does, just like an ingredient in tea. Another part of it was like, you know, we kind of went through the conversation about my farm all backwards as far as like intentionality and everything. Because like she brought up a few things that like things that I could incentivize for commodity, and it's like I'm not interested in making anything a commodity, and and then like further into the conversation, I said something about like, and then when I'm able to do this, uh, it will all be on a pay what you can basis because I'm not going to sell this. It will only ever be on a pay what you can basis. And that was so foreign. She just like kept like every time I was like say something really clearly or like present something like, yes, actually I have thought about this like random fucking kitschy idea that you threw out, and here's what I decided about it, and here's what I'd like to facilitate with it, and like this is what I would do in the future, but it would depend on me being able to and and like she'd hear that and just be like, have you thought about this? And I'm just like, yes, and like it's kind of disappointing. If you actually get this far, will you just like leave me an emoji? Surprise me. Just leave an emoji in the comments. Because I don't know why anyone would get this far. But like the whole reason that I do this is that like all kinds of media exist out there and have exist over time to be consumed. And like when I first got like really into YouTube, like around like 10 years ago or so, um I was finding like those first people who learned how to get like decent camera and lighting and editing software, um like equipment and software that they could use in their apartment, and like have reasonably polished videos that they could upload on YouTube and upload on a schedule. And they started doing a whole thing, and like it was just like a creative outlet for them on this media, on this like platform where they could just like it was approachable and very doable. And I got to watch the beginnings of those, and I got to watch people just like, if you're just alone with a camera and decide what you want to do, what's gonna happen, you know? And but like I love finding people who are just talking and talking about where how they perceive their experience or the world or whatever. Um, and I love it when I find voices who I think, yeah, me too. And because it makes me feel less alone. That's the really beautiful thing about art and writing, especially, I think, writing music. There's something about it that if it resonates with you, you feel less alone because something that you are understanding about that was something that you already understood and that now feels seen and now feels shared and now feels someone else also felt this or thought this. and it's something that can exist outside of, direct contact, and that's really beautiful. I think especially, art, writing, music. And it's good for me to just force myself to, like, you have a camera rolling, and to get comfortable taking the time. I know so many people who, like, they don't finish sentences and they don't let anyone else finish sentences. I'm in a place where I mostly, like, listen to long form podcast type videos, where people give full thought out sentences, um, where I'm reading and I'm starting to talk like it. Anyway, I'm gonna wrap this up, get something to eat, play this back, see if I want to upload it. Dorian, I love you.